Perfect. All right, everyone, welcome to Studio Review. Here we go on to today's, I'm gonna, again, need one moment here before I get that. There's my tab, I was like, where are you at? What am I doing? What am I doing? I am going to this guy. On to loops. 9.10, there we go. I'm gonna make sure that we go to the correct replit here just for a moment, though. Cool, looks like we're all good. Perfecto. All right. Oh, how's everyone doing tonight? Everyone still hanging in there?
My brain is scrambled.
Same, scrambled eggs over here too. Not even a good sunny side up, just full omelet massacre scrambled. So let's get it together. Let's make an eggs Benedict out of this and loop into some loops. Actually, that was I don't know eggs that well, so that was probably a terrible analogy about eggs. I apologize. I think eggs Benedict has something to do with a biscuit too. I don't know. We're gonna forget I even made that little even joke. Let's get into this. Okay, everyone, 9.10. Real quick before we get started into this, anything in particular you all want me to call out or go into more depth about the lecture that might have caused some extra knowledge gaps? Anything at all? Nothing? Nothing? Pinky promise nothing? All right, if there is something and you're holding it back, just yell at me as always. All right, let's get into it. 9.10 Studios for Loops. Now that we've launched our shuttle, let's use loops iteration to automate some tasks. Real quick, also, just a small little notice on this lecture. There's going to be some instructions apparently that are in this studio that are out of sync with the replit. In this particular studio, we're going to be going with the replit instructions, not the book instructions. So just want to call that out there. All right, on to 9.10.1, Part A, put dinner together. Sounds good to me. First, initialize variables to store the following arrays. Remember to use descriptive names: protein options, grain options, vegetable options, beverage options, and dessert options. The code is at the replit. I clicked on this link, and you know, we're just gonna, well, now I had to fork it again. So I already opened up the link here. You've already opened up a replit before. Remember, click on that fork on the top right, and this is what we get. We already got all of those things over here with at least the information in there. Oops. That's what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to separate these tabs. That's going to make it a lot nicer. We already have all of these arrays put in here, which is very nice, but we do not have the descriptive name. So let's go in here. It says initialize variables to store the following arrays, use descriptive names. So that's what we're going to do. We have these 5 arrays, but we have no actual names to the variables. Remember, we need to use let to create the variable. We actually need a variable name to complete it. So in this case, I'm going to just go by the option name. So protein is the first one. So I'm going to say protein.
Are you sharing your screen, Kyle?
Oh my gosh, am I not sharing my screen right now? No one's called me out for it?
I'm sitting there thinking,
is everyone just, oh my
gosh.
gosh. Oh, do I really need to share my screen? I feel like I can just describe it enough. You guys should all get through this, right?
It's pretty close.
I was going to go through the whole studio just not sharing my screen. All right. You're just going to see my face just reading through everything. All right.
Yeah,
now that you see my screen and what I'm actually doing, hello, everyone. Welcome to Studio Review. We're going to 9.10 for studios and loops. Now that we have launched our shuttle, let's use loops iteration to automate some tasks. 9.10.1, part 1, put dinner together. We have to initialize these variables in the following array. Like I said, I clicked on this code at replit here, and I opened up already a tab on the other panel that I have here, so we actually can see that. Originally, whenever I opened it, it did not have protein in there. Sorry for not sharing my screen there. It only had these lets in here. And in order to create a variable, we need to start with the word let, but we need to have a descriptor or a name for our variable. In that case, this is the first thing I did. Protein options, those are proteins. I named this variable protein. We're going to do the same thing as we move down. I see grain here. I'm lazy, so copy that. What I do is paste that. Remember, we do not want to capitalize our variables ever. We want to keep that lowercase and then camel case it after that. We're going to keep going here and do vegetables. There we go. We do vegetables there with a lowercase b. Continuing on, we have beverage options. copy that over because I can barely spell ingredients today, let alone a beverage. So there we go. You know how hard it is to spell restaurant? It's like you can spell that in 8 different ways and it not be right. And like if you don't have autocorrect on, it's just a bad day. Anywho, dessert was the last options there. So let's go ahead and double check here. Apparently apple is a dessert. That's a lie. If anyone ever gives you an apple and someone else cake, you did not get treated fairly whatsoever. Our beverages look like beverages, juice and milk. Do not like milk. It's always forced to drink it as a kid. Still hold a grudge over milk. Can't do it. Vegetables, peas, green beans, kale, meat, grains. Looks like grains. Proteins look like proteins. We are good to go. It looks like part A has been completed. We gave all those variables specific names. There's no other questions on that. I'm going to keep on keeping on here. Let's get into some fun stuff here. We're on to number 2 now. Use a for loop to assemble 6 delicious meals. Then we have these parts in here. Again, like I said, the book might be out of sync with the Replit, so I'm actually going to go over to Replit now and read what it actually wants me to do. So we have our part A here. Let me make sure. The meals must, okay, maybe it did actually have all that stuff in there. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring it over here so we can actually see what it wants, A through C, because it doesn't give me that information. And it didn't copy A. All right, A, B, and C. Let's go through these things and see what it wants us to do. C, cool. A, should get another water. A, the meals must include 1 item from each of the source arrays. Cool. B, each ingredient can only be used once. C, print out each meal. Cool. So what tool, to you all, should we be using to make all these meals together? Help me out.
For group.
Okay.
A for loop. Very good.
Oh,
What was
go
that?
ahead. That's okay.
Oh, no. Did you have a question?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. No
Sorry.
worries there. So yes, you're absolutely right. We are going to create a for loop. So we're going to start with the word for here. Now I'm going to start creating my for loop. It says that we need to assemble 6 meals. That is a very specific number. I need to create 6 meals, and I'm going to use this for loop to create those said meals. In that case, I'm going to create this for loop to iterate 6 times. So what I do is I start creating that by saying let I, remember I short for index, 0, I less than, now my stopping, I want to do 6 meals, so I put 6 here. Yes, absolutely right. I put 6 there, very good, and then I iterate each time, so I plus plus. Fantastic there. So yes, we are going to iterate 6 times and build those meals. Now, here's the thing. I need to be able to build the meals together. So how can I exactly do that? Well, let's go and see what it wants. It says we need to create and construct a loop that assembles a meal for each astronaut. Now, the meals must include 1 item from each of the source arrays. So I need to create meals and have 1 of each of them inside of a thing. So I need to create meals and I basically need to have a dessert and a protein all in 1 box, 1 container, AKA 1 array. So I actually need to build an array for a meal. So what I'm going to do is that I need to basically have a variable that initializes to that array. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to create a variable for a meal and be it an empty array for right now. Now, I created this little meal variable here that I initialized to an array to say that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pack full this meal full of information basically from the food groups that we declared above. So that's what we're going to do now. Now, you can do this in a couple of different ways. One way I'm going to first do with is the push. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to say meal.push, and I'm going to go ahead and push information in. So I'm going to say I want to push information in from protein. Now, I need to pause here and be like, okay, I know I want to put a protein inside of my meal, but how can I exactly get access to each and every single protein as we move down the line? The answer there, as you already probably know, is the bracket notation. So I'm going to do bracket notation there. And then inside the bracket, we actually need to indicate what number we're going to use to make our meal. I'm iterating this over 6 times. I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items in each and every one of my arrays. Well, that's perfect. So if I have 6 things in each of my arrays, I can just count to 6 and use 0, 1, 2, and 3, all the way up to 6, that iteration or that index of each of these food groups in my meal. So that's what I'm going to do. So I say protein square bracket I in there. So I say meal dot push, and then I say grain and I. And that's what I'm going to do all the way down here. Vegetable. Oop, I didn't spell that. I said mail. Oh, wow, and I didn't even combine those words there. Push. Push. Wow. All right, Kyle, come on. Beverage.
Okay. Can't we combine this with commas?
I believe you can if you wanted to do that. Yes. If you want to. So there's a few ways we're going to go through it. So bear with me, and I'm going to show a couple different ways, but you are absolutely right. So this is one way we could create our meal array and keep pushing that information in there. So this is one way you could do this. Another one, like one of our colleagues just said, what you could do is actually comma delineate each one inside of the push. So you can push this all in on one line if you wanted to do that. So bear with me here. I'll go and show that. Go and clear out the other side there in just a second. Perfect. So now we have that all in one line, and I can now remove this. This is the second way you could possibly do this. If you didn't even want to do the dot push, what you could do is also just put it inside of your array just like that. If you didn't want to do push, so you can actually create the meal object right, or excuse me, the meal array right then and there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so any of those 3 ways you are absolutely more than welcome to do. All right, we have created our meal array here. That's awesome. Let's go and console log it and see what's going on. Go and run this. We're going to see the console output on the right-hand side here. So great. It looks like we have a protein in each of the 0th indexes. Then we have a nice grain, a vegetable, beverage, and a dessert. And some of these meals actually look dang appetizing. All right. Cool. Any questions up until this point before we keep moving forward? I heard I have a Slack. So like I said, if you have a question there, I can't pull open Slack right now just because I only have one screen with me right now. So if you have a question, feel free to yell it out. But any questions about this? All right, we're gonna keep moving on then. We have our meal prepared, but it says we must include one of that. Each ingredient must be used to print out each meal. So we are actually done with part 2. Let me see. Let's see. Each ingredient once, and I think we're good there. It looks like we are assembling that and then printing out. So we're actually fine. Doesn't look like we have to do anything else with it. Did anyone else go any further? We're going to go ahead and do 3 here in a moment. Anyone ever do anything else besides that on part 2? Anything else they want to go over?
I used, instead of just hardwiring 6 in there, I used protein.length to get because if we added more choices or whatever, then it would modify automatically.
Yeah, technically you could do that. The only downside about that is, what if protein had 7 and everything else had 6? So if for whatever reason protein got added to it. So that's not going to ever happen, so that's fine. It's just a question we would ask ourselves, like,
Sure.
Yeah, can we truly depend on it in all cases is what we want to ask, but you're absolutely fine to do that. Protein has 6, we needed 6, you're A-okay with that. Awesome, awesome. Anything else, anyone? Before we move on to 3. All right, let's go ahead and do that then. We're going to do a skill boost here, which is optional for maybe you all, but I want to do it. To enhance our learning, modify our code to use string formatting to print something out more interesting than chicken, rice, peas, juice, apple, etc. for the meal outputs. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's go and print some fun stuff out. How to do that? We're going to use that string literal right there by using those backticks that we see in the top left. So I am going to just type in a nice little string here. I'm about to enjoy some, and then I'm going to add my protein. Actually, you know what I can do? Meal 0 with some $. Meal. Why do I keep spelling mail? Meal. Apparently I need to mail something. My subconscious is telling me. All right, meal. And $2. You know, I'm going to comma that. Comma. How many do we have? We have 5 things? 6 things. 5 things. 5 things. $meal 3, and then finally comma and meal $, curly bracket, meal 4. There we go. Let's go ahead and print that out and see what happens. Neat. I'm about to enjoy some chicken with some rice, peas, and apple. Again, apple is not a dessert. Anyone ever tells me wrong? F. JK. I kid. All right. That's how we can print out a pretty string right there. Awesome. A is all finished there. Let's move on to B. Use an array of arrays to store the food options in a pantry. So a pantry equals this giant array for the pantry, and then with chicken, pork, rice, etc. So all those options. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So we want to do an array with an array. We need to have each meal inside of a pantry. Now, meal is inside this for loop, and that's okay to be there. Remember, on line 20, meal doesn't exist. It forgets about it because it's outside of this curly brackets. So what we're actually going to do is that we're going to utilize meal, but we need to have a variable that even outside the for loop, we remember, called pantry, because that's what we're creating there for part B. So what I'm going to do here is say let pantry equal, open and close brackets here. We needed to create a pantry array. That's awesome. So now we have our pantry created. Let's go ahead and, I thought I was going to want to do a meal. It actually wants us to go ahead and create a pantry for all of our options up here. That's a-okay. So I apologize. We are not going to do anything with the loop. Instead, we can put our pantry, well, up here, because we just need to use these options up here and include them in our pantry. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I say pantry, and I'm going to say protein, grain options, vegetable, that's beverage, and then finally dessert, just like that. And we're going to just go ahead and print that out too, just so we can go and see what the pantry looks like. We run that, and on the top, we see this giant thing getting printed out. Now, this is a very cool type of array. Can anyone remember what the name of this particular array is called?
Multi-dimensional array.
Multi-dimensional, very good. But how many dimensions are we in?
2 dimensions.
Very good. It is, this case is a 2-dimensional array, but you're absolutely right. This is a multi-dimensional array. So yes, this is a nice 2-dimensional one right here, which is great for storing stuff within stuff. Sometimes we'll have shelves within a pantry, or sorry, shelves within a cabinet, things like that. So we're storing things within a thing. That is what we just created there. So any questions about our 2-dimensional array, the pantry that we just made? All right, let's keep going then. All right, on to 9.10.22, self-destruct system. Sounds unsafe. If the shuttle gets hijacked by space pirates, the astronauts can activate a self-destruct sequence to provide some drama for the viewers at home. In order to prevent a rogue astronaut from activating the code, it takes 2 crew members to begin the countdown. Each person must enter a different code, after which the computer will zip them together before overloading the engines. That is pretty dramatic. Construct a for loop that combines 2 strings together, alternating the characters from each source. All right, so here's our examples. String 1, 2, 3, 4, other string 5, 6, 7, 8. So there will be this giant thing right here, 15, 26, 37, 48. And then we see this one as well. This one's kind of fun, I like that. All right, let's go ahead and do that. In order to start, we need to come down here and click on that link to open up the Replit. Then whenever Replit loads, we click Fork Replit here in the top right. Absolutely awesome. There we go. All right, looks like it already gave us an example here. Rutabagas and chemistry, two very different things. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing going. So I need to make sure, or sorry, I need to build a for loop that says that takes these two strings and iterates them together. So at least I know one thing. I need to build a for loop. So that's what I'm going to do here. For let I equal 0, and then open up my semicolon there. I less than, and then what do I need? What is, okay, so we start at 0. I know that. But where do we end at?
Kyle, shouldn't we declare the variable names first?
Oh, I didn't even see that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and see that. Construct a loop, two strings, example, for now, make sure the two strings are the same. So yeah, we can go ahead and just do that. We're gonna just go ahead and say string str1 and str2. str2, yeah, very good catch there. Awesome. So yeah, we had to declare those variables first. So awesome, awesome. So on to the for loop there. So now we have our variables declared. Where do we want our for loop to end?
Do you want to declare a third string to store the
Well,
alternating
let's get to that in a
characters in?
moment. Let's get to that in a moment. Let's finish up our for loop, because at least I know I'm going to be building a for loop. But you're absolutely right. You're on the right track there. But help me out. Where do we want our for loop to end?
9.
Would it be the just string.length?
Very good. We're going to be doing a string.length,
Right.
because right now it's 9, but if we change these examples, we'll have to change that 9. So we'll have to do a lot of manual entry. So instead, let's go ahead and just read str1.length for the time being. Awesome. So now I'm able to loop over each letter. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead, I want to console log out each letter to make sure I can get each one of those. So I'm going to say console log. Help me out with this. For str1, how am I going to get the character at the particular index out?
Square bracket I.
Very good. Square bracket I. Awesome, awesome. I'm going to say console.log str2 of I there. Let's see what we get now. So we run that. And it looks like we get this very cool, excuse me, this very cool looking string back, but line by line. So now we actually have to use these indexes in the string and combine them into one string. So I already heard it. What do we need to do now so we can actually build our answer?
Make an empty array.
Not necessarily an empty array.
Empty string.
In this case, we're building a string, so we don't want to use an array at this point, which you can if you wanted to. At the very end, you'd have to use a dot join. But in this case, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to try to just keep it all within the string family and utilize that. So where would I declare an empty string?
I just set mine to a global.
So give me a line. What line would we want to
9.
create a name?
9.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. At the beginning, at the top, outside of the for loop. So here we're going to say let full string equal empty quotes. Awesome. All right, so now that we have that finished, I know I can access each and every single one of my characters here in the for loop. So now I need to combine everything together. So in order to do that, I know I'm going to be working with my full string variable. I know that because this is what's going to be storing that answer. So I need to be able to manipulate that. So what I need to be doing is as I'm moving through these indexes from 0 to whatever, in this case 9, I need to be adding those characters into this string. To append to a string, what you want to do is do plus equals to keep adding things into that string. Of course, that equivalent again is full string equals full string plus, and then whatever you want to put there. But to simplify just a little bit further, we're going to use that operator plus equals. So here, now I need to combine those characters inside of this full string. We already saw how we get that out. We say str1 square bracket, and then the index we're at. And the same for str2. Oop. That there. And then for I. Awesome. Then finally, so we can actually see our answer, we say full str, just like that. Let's go and run this and see now what we get. Awesome. look at that. We are now combining our stuff together into one full string and then printing it out so we can see it. Let's go ahead and test this to make sure everything is still okay. I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I really like this example. It's hilarious. So the first one was loot. Second one was that with an exclamation point, and we press run. And now we get lookout. Awesome. So our example works. Therefore, it looks like this code is working as well. Let's make sure we've completed everything. Good for now. Make sure the two strings contain the same number of characters. Awesome. All right. This was part B. Looks like we are all good here. So any questions on what we just did?
Real quick question. What you're doing with the full string variable is very unintuitive for me. Like I would have never come up with that. So, but is that the accumulator pattern? Is that like what this is, kind of?
Yeah, so tell me which portion exactly was counterintuitive. Was it this line or just the full use of the string?
Yeah, so when you create the empty line or the empty string, and then you essentially just like append to it, like, I don't know, I've never seen that, and it's just very unintuitive to me. It makes sense, but it's just like, talked about in the book. I'm just trying to make sense of.
Yeah, so which direction did you go? So tell me about what approach that you took.
I didn't get to this part actually.
Okay,
but whenever
which way would you want to take?
Oh gosh, let's see. So full string. I don't even know, to be quite honest. I think that it would be, I don't even know. I guess maybe it's the fact that I've never come across these similar problems. But like whenever you do this thing where you like create the empty string, it's just very unusual for me, I guess.
Sure. Actually, give me 1 second here. I'm going to connect to a better internet because I'm freezing up.
Same formula, the for
There
loop.
we go. Awesome. Okay, now I'm back. Sorry about that. I was connecting to a better internet because the hotel internet is absolutely tragic. So I just heard someone talking when I came back in. I did not catch any of that. So can you go ahead and repeat that real quick?
Whenever I did this, I just based it off the example they used in reversing a string from chapter 9. They used a for loop using blue and just spelling it backwards. And it's just, I use the same thing for the most part.
So you use the reverse?
It was, I don't like, can I post
Yeah,
like, where should I post it?
Yeah, feel free to go ahead and post it in just the general, or go ahead and post it in the lecture chat if you want to do that.
Yeah, so that's the example they use in the chapter. I just based it off that. But instead of plus reverse, I just did plus string 2. Like reverse would be string 3 equals string 1 plus string 2. And I got the same thing.
Okay, so where is your second string that you're combining the other string with?
No, I'm just saying that's the example I used from the book to help me with this part.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you were saying this was your approach. I was like, we were missing one string there, but I get you. Okay, so this is what you're using for just
start with one string and then create an empty one to put your new results in, right?
Yeah, I probably just confused everybody. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
No, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're absolutely fine. Yeah, if that helps, awesome. Let me see if I can I'll tear this down just a little bit to see maybe if this approach will hopefully resonate better. So let me go ahead and try this out. So we had 2 strings up here. We have A and B. We have 1 and 2. We need to combine them together. We know that L and O need to go next to each other. They're both at 0. Same with O and K here. They're at the number 1 column there. Then we have I think it's like a number 0 and U on the second index, both on those strings, and then T and the exclamation point at 3. So we know that these are all at 0, 1, 2, and 3. We need to combine these 2 together. As we saw in the console log, I know that I have L and O at the same time from these two strings at when I is 0. So what I could have done is done full string equal full string plus, and I need to include str1 first. So I say str1 I. And then what I could have done, instead of just doing this all in one line here, full str equals full str plus str2 of I. So what I'm going to do here, just to see this more in action, I'm going to console log right after each of these steps to see it actually being built. So we're going to console log str here. Let's go ahead and see what actually happens inside of the for loop as it's looping. Take a look at what's actually going on here. When we come to the for loop, starting at 10, full string is at empty quotes. It has nothing in it. We come down here to 12. I is 0. I is 0 is less than str1.length, which is 4. And so we start up the loop. The first thing is empty quotes is here, because again, on the right-hand side of the equal sign is what we start out with first. Full string at this point is empty quotes. So we add str1 at index 0, because I equals 0. What is the character at str1 of index 0? Who can tell me?
Capital L.
Capital L. Exactly right. So we add full string, which is empty quotes, plus capital L together, and then we reassign it to full string here on the left-hand side. So now full string at line 13 when it's done is capital L. We come down here to line 14 and we print out full string. As we see in the console log on the right-hand side, that's exactly what we see, is a capital L first. So let's come down here now to line 15. Full string at this moment is what value? Who can tell me?
Capital L.
Capital L, very good. What is this going to give me? str2 when I equals 0.
Lowercase o.
Lowercase o, very good. L plus lowercase o gives us low.
L.
Exactly right. We are now at low. Low is then assigned to full string here on the left-hand side. We come down to line 16. Low is printed. That is what we see up here in the console log. Let's go through one more iteration. Now what happens when we come back up here to line 12?
I is now 1.
I is now 1. Very good. So we come down to here to line 13. Full string is the value of what?
Lo.
Low. Very good. What is str1 at the new index I?
Lowercase o.
Lowercase o, because now I is 1. So we look at str1 at 1, it's a lowercase o. Low plus another lowercase o is lu. So now our full string on the left-hand side is reassigned to lu. We come down to line 14, we print that out to the screen, and that's what we see. We see lu. Final one. Full string on the right-hand side of the equal sign, because again, that's what gets started first, is low. str2 at index I, which is 0, or excuse me, 1, is what value? Okay, so what happens?
Look, it becomes look. It gets added to
look.
the full string.
Good, yeah, and as we do this, we build upon it to eventually become lookout. So I know, and there it is, Micah. This was originally your question. So from that standpoint, where do you feel any knowledge gaps with this iteration? What exactly is?
So I guess my main question is, like, whenever you did this in the you did this before, it made no sense to me, and I was like, what are you doing? But like, we talked about the accumulator pattern I think in this chapter, but we didn't talk about it in the studio or in the lecture. Mm-hmm. So is this the accumulator pattern, just to be clear? Because that made more sense to me.
That one partly, yeah, made more logical sense.
Like when they described it that way as the accumulator pattern, it made more sense. I'm just trying to connect ideas in the book so that
right. I get you.
Solidify.
I believe this might be what they're referring to as the accumulator pattern. I'll have to look at it specifically, that detail about what they're talking about. But if they are doing the plus equals and then they're just accumulating, excuse me, it might be I think it is the accumulator. I always look at it as a summation. But yeah, I think it just accumulates. I think that's exactly what they're going for. So this equivalence up here, I'm going to take out the console logs, is exactly what I wrote beforehand. So what that is full. So what this can be simplified into is full string equals str1 of I plus str2 of I. And then technically in this one, so this can be simplified. So these two lines can now be simplified to this line. This line can technically be simplified to plus equals str1 of I plus str2 of I. So now that line just got simplified to this. So that's how we build upon that, and that's how I got to my original answer.
Kyle, can I ask you a question?
Michael, yeah, real quick. Michael, does that help out a little bit?
No, yep, we're good. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Go ahead.
Actually, it's following up on what Micah was saying, because my question is, isn't the accumulator pattern actually that I plus plus at the end of your for line?
Is that what it is? Okay, I got to remember what my
So,
terminology is here.
Because I was goofing around trying to do something, like I came up with my own program, and in it, my the whatever it is, like the middle thing, like the second element of the for loop, the comparison, I was decreasing the length of my array as it was going, and so because I increments by 1 because of the plus plus, it was messing up and only going halfway through the loop that I needed. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying, but
it does, and it's absolutely very dangerous to manipulate the size of your array in a for loop that depends on it. Whether it's to grow or shrink it, you can either put yourself in a logical error or an infinite loop by doing so. So the best practice is not to grow or shrink. Wait, no, it's cool to learn that. But just putting that wording out there. No, it technically can work. You just have to be very careful with what that logic is doing. Because if you're manipulating the size of the for loop that depends, or you're manipulating the size of the array of the array that a for loop depends on while you're inside of it, you're messing with how many cycles it goes through.
Yeah, which is what it took me a while to figure that out. But like, so the weird thing, and that's actually the question that I have, is I didn't want the I plus plus thing at the end of the line, and I just closed the parenthesis after like what on the for one that you've got on the screen now, it would be like right after the N. I just closed the parenthesis, and it just kept throwing an error. And I just, for the hell of it, I just added the semicolon and then the parenthesis, and I ran it, and it worked. And so if you want to throw away one like that, for instance, I don't want it to increment for some reason. Is there like a normal syntax, or I just shouldn't do that anyway altogether?
So if you don't want it to increment, then you're looking for a conditional loop, which a conditional loop is a while loop. So what you did was that you just tried to format your for loop into a while loop.
Oh yeah, I could have done a while there's still something in the array, then keep going. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So in that case, you'd want to switch over to a while loop if you didn't want it to increment. You always want to have all three of these in your for loop. If you try to get rid of one of them, that means you're trying to use a loop that shouldn't be meant for that particular situation.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic question. That's awesome. For the accumulator pattern, I believe we are, I think it's just to read through it exactly what they're, yeah. Okay. I'll just see exactly what it means by that. Because I forgot my operator name right now. I apologize, but yeah, I'll look into that a little bit more. But any other questions?
Yes, Kyle, can you go back to the first replit? I believe there was a section that we skipped, I think. Part C, or maybe I missed it when you were working on it.
So we are not exactly at part C yet. That is actually going to be the next thing that we're going to be going into here on 9.10.3.
Okay.
Yep, we'll be hopping into that in just a moment. So I'm going to make sure that there's nothing else on part B anybody wants me to go over. Anything?
Kyle, what if the two, like the two astronauts, each one gets their own code, right? What if they're not of the same length?
In that case, you're going to have to find which string has the least amount of length. And if we're going to do that one, we're going to type in here, There we go, just extra text. So we see that string 1 and string 2 are different sizes now. What you would want to do, let's go ahead and do that, is shortest length equals 0, just at that point. So what we do is we do an if statement. Which one is shorter? str1 dot length is shorter than str2 dot length. Then if in that case, we're going to say shortest length equals string 1 dot length. If it's the other one, we say shortest equals str2 dot length. And then once we have the shortest length, that's what we utilize here in the for loop. So we run that, and now we still get the same exact thing, but at least we're protected in case those codes aren't the same length. We do the shortest length because if we did the longest length, once we got to the C here in cookie, string length has nothing else to give. We're asking it for something that it doesn't have. So we actually can't do the longer string. We have to do the shorter one. So we still have data to work with. So that's why we do that.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone, we're going to hop in here to part B. All right, or part C. All right, on to 9.10.3, part C, refinements. Update your code from part A to add user input and validation. Using a while loop, ask the user to select the number of meals to assemble. Validate the input to make sure it is an integer from 1 to 6. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Let's see. Okay, so what do we have to iterate? My question is right now is, okay, we have to use a while loop, but when do I stop looping? That's my first question always. Like, I don't want to loop for infinite times. When do I stop? Ask the user to select the number of meals to assemble, validate the user input. Okay, so I'll ask you guys, because it doesn't make it too clear to me. You know what, maybe this is what I need to go into part C and actually see. Using a while loop, ask the user to select a number of meals to validate the input. Okay, so I'm gonna say at this point, we're gonna loop over this until they provide valid input. That's what I'm gonna go for. I think that makes sense. Does that make sense to you guys? Should we do that? All right, cool. All right, first things first, we're gonna be asking for user input. So what do I need to include at the very top?
Const input.
Absolutely right. Const input equals require. And then what do we need to require?
Read line sync.
Read line sync.
Very good, read line sync. Cool, cool. Very good, everyone. All right, now it's time to start asking the user for information. But before we actually do that, we're gonna start setting up our while loop. I'm gonna say while, and then I gotta put some kind of conditional in there. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna write just yet.
I have a question. The const input, does that have to go at the top, or can it go farther down?
This guy?
No, yeah,
This always, always, always. Every word required should always be at the top, no matter what. Yep.
Okay.
We import everything always at the top first, and then we use it at the, then we use it in the rest of the assignment or the application.
Okay.
Yeah, great question there. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a variable out here that says let user input equal to 0. Now remember, user input has to be 1 through 6 here, and 0 is not. So that's going to lead me to what I want to put in my conditional. I need to loop until my user input is correct. That's what I'm going to put here. Loop until user input is correct. All right, so what I'm going to do, while my user input is less than 1, or user input is greater than 6, I want you to continue to loop. Now let's talk about that. I want to keep looping while my user input is less than 1, meaning 0, -1, -2, etc. Or my user input is 7, 8, 9, or 10. I want to keep looping during that because -1, -2, and 7 and 8 are not correct. So if they're not correct, I want to keep looping. So this is basically asking in this conditional way, is it correct input? If it's not correct input, it continues to loop. If it is, then it finally breaks one of these conditionals and we can hop out of there. So those are the conditionals I put inside there. Now, if you just put is user input greater than 6, technically we'd have to check if it's 0. So that you'd also need to include another conditional in there equal to 0. If you don't want to deal with negative numbers, that's fine. But in this case, if you really want to just protect the entire spectrum of your numbers, this is the conditional I would recommend. So any questions about that one? All right. And then let's go ahead. So now we actually have our conditional met, everything like that. Let's go ahead and ask our user the question. So I'm going to say user input, because that's the variable we need to set, equals to input dot question. Because we actually need to ask our users now a question. So in order to do that, we do the input dot question and we actually ask them, how many meals would you like to create? And I'll put 1 through 6 here so they know, just to hope that they actually enter a correct number. And then we're going to go ahead and have to do what? All right, the user input comes back, but what kind of data type is it going to be?
String.
Number.
String.
No, string.
It's going to be a string. Very good. Absolutely right. Every time everything comes back from a question, it is always a string, but it's going to be a string representing a number. So what do we need to do to our user input?
Cast it into a number.
Very good. Yeah, we need to convert it or cast it into a number. So how do we do that exactly?
Before input, we have to put number.
So we say user input, and then I think I heard it. What was that for this?
Okay, number.
Very good. Number. Awesome, awesome.
And then
User input. The thing we need to convert. Awesome, guys. Very, very good. There we go. So we have our now we have our user input. Now it was a string, and then it's casted into a number or converted into a number using this number function right here. Awesome. All right. Any questions on that one?
Kyle, we've been doing in the same sentence, like on the line 32, user input equal to number, and we're putting the whole thing in parentheses. Is that okay or not?
What are you putting in? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're putting the number in there as well. So number, that's completely fine. If you want to do it all in one line,
fine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I just did 2 lines just to break it down a little bit, but you're
I was doing like this too. I just saw someone else on the Slack doing it, and so I copied it, but I wasn't sure whether it is the right best practice or not. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so once we have our user input converted to a number, we need to go ahead and check to see if it is actually correct. So if user input equals, so we can do this in a few ways, but we're going to do this one with the stuff that we talked about. If user input is greater than or equal to 6, or excuse me, 1, and user input is less than or equal to 6, then we know it's within the range. Now, these conditionals can get tricky. The range ones, honestly, was the hardest one ever to just master in my head. It was terrible. I was at to draw like little number lines like back in the grade school and high school and stuff to figure out what I needed to do. But what this is saying is that if the user input is greater than 1, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so if it's that, and the user input is less than or equal to 6, meaning 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, if it crosses those, if they both have it in common, then it's okay. The 2 things that these conditionals have in common are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Pinky promise, if we draw it out on a whiteboard, which I wish I had whiteboards back, like the good old days when I actually had whiteboards behind me, we'd see that these 2 things coincide or have a union or in common have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in common. Therefore, if it's any of those numbers, this conditional will be true. So that's what's going on there. So if it's true, then we're actually able to do the coding that we need. And I'm sorry, am I hearing your question? Sorry about that. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and we are going to add that code. So if it is 1 through 6, then we are A-okay to actually do the code here. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. We're gonna copy this existing code up here as we can reuse it, just like that, awesome. We're gonna paste it inside of the if statement. So awesome, now we're able to create those meals, exactly what we did over in part A. But what do we need to edit? Who can help me out here? What do we need to edit in this for loop to make it actually create the correct number of meals? Wake up, everyone. Let's go. Who can help me out with it? What do we need to edit in that for loop?
All your arrays are in the pantry, right?
In this case, we're making meals. So we're just
Two-dimensional.
making the meal here, and we're not using the pantry at all. We are just making the meals and printing them out.
Okay,
here.
sorry.
No. You're all good. You're good. We created the pantry up here, but we didn't utilize it for anything. What we can do that in a little bit in the future, but right now we're just creating the meals. So for this for loop, can anyone tell me what do we need to edit so we create the correct number of meals that the user asked for?
Instead of hard coding the numbers, meal 1, 2, we have to put user input.
All right, what line am I looking at to try to get that switched around?
Line 36. I'm sorry, line 37.
Where in line 37 would you want to do it?
Like, I don't know. Like in the meal of 1.
So here we're just getting information.
Only 4 meals.
Oh, no, you're all good. So for this one, we're just getting the information out of meal, which is created on line 36. But we are looking for the area where we have the number that controls how many meals are made. The user told us how many meals they want to make. So where in this for loop can we edit to help us out there?
Line 35.
Line 35, awesome, I love it. What do we need to edit in line 35?
The loop condition, the 6, change it into user
Very
input.
good. Absolutely right. That's 6. That is what we have to change right there. We need to take out that 6 and put in user input. User input, remember, is a number. And it's going to be that number 1 through 6 that the user entered. So that's what this magic is going to help us out with. Let's go ahead and see this thing in action. I'm going to console log that out. We're going to run this. It's going to download that stuff. That's what we just saw on the right-hand side. And now we're asked with our question. Look at that. How many meals would you like to create? How many meals do we want to create?
5.
5 meals. All right, let's go and create 5 here. Click that and look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meals. Awesome. All right, give me one more number.
Can we make it out of bounds?
Not yet. Give me one number 1 through 6.
2.
2. All right, 2 it is. All right, looks like we are getting 2 meals. Fantastic. So we are all okay. So why I didn't want to do 1 out of bounds yet, we should always do a couple checks to make sure that the good path, or the happy path is what we call it, all makes sense and it works properly. So now let's go ahead and hop on that bad path. Someone give me an out of bounds number here.
7.
7, lucky number 7. And what happens? Look at that. We are asked again. Let's give it another number, 100 or 10,000, whatever. Look at that. We are being looped here. Give it a proper number like 4, or given now 4 meals back. Awesome. We are looping and reiterating over to the user what to do. But the one thing about this is it loops until proper input. So it actually, no, I'm sorry, that is correct. It will loop until we actually give it proper input, and then it will exit the application. Let's go and look at that code again. So any questions on this before we dive into just a little bit more?
I have a weird question.
Ask your weird question.
What if the person doesn't want that meal? So say like meal 3, and they're like, can I have another meal, like a different meal?
So we have to deal with picky eaters, is what you're telling me? Ah, that sounds absolutely terrible. So to deal with that, I mean, oh gosh, you're making me think here. What can we do that's within bounds? Well, all right. Well, before I dive into that, any other questions? All right. Well, in that case, if they didn't like their meal, we need to deal with it. So let's go ahead and do this. User input. Did you like your meal? So you can say yes or no. In this case, we can call it const user liked meal. In this one, we'd say that if user liked meal equals no, then in that case, I'm trying to think of what we can do here. We have to, oh gosh, no. So what we would have to do, yeah.
Would it be like skip the line, like a -1 or a +2?
You could just generate a new one.
You could do a lot of things. The biggest thing is that you wouldn't want to increment your indexes, because what if they said, okay, I didn't like my meal, but they asked for 6 meals. We would have to basically generate a new meal that they would like. Now, to generate a meal that they would like inside of the confines of all of our options, we kind of would want to randomize more what they get the next time around. So to answer your question, we might need something that's more random, which we haven't really gone into just yet, in order to approach this problem. But to start out that approach is something like this. You would say, does the user like their meals? If no, then what we would say is, okay, well, we're going to set your user input equal back to 0. And what we can say is run this. And so how many meals would you like to create? You can say 2. And then, do you like your meals? You can say no, and it would repeat. So this would be one way you could possibly do it. Like, okay, and then the next time around, you could possibly randomize, or maybe say, hey, maybe only 1 meal this time, something along those lines. But I don't think we have enough in our toolbox yet to completely approach that question. So I can't show you that just yet, and it would take an extra little bit of time. But if you are truly curious, like I said, book time with me, and I'm happy to go through that example with you.
Okay.
I'll wait until random numbers.
I have a suggestion. Then,
yeah, what's up?
Then console log, sorry, no substitutions allowed.
There we go. I love it. Just tell them, nope, sorry. Technology's not there yet. Gotta eat your apple for dessert.
It's late and my sense of humor just kicked in. Sorry.
Right? It's getting to that time of the night, right? Love it.
I'm a preschool teacher, and we say, you get what you get and don't throw a fit.
There you go. Exactly. I love that. Oh, that's hilarious. Nice, everyone. Well, I love that question too. Yeah, it would definitely add some extra complexity into this, but yeah, we'll get back to it. If you remind me too, if we're in something like this, remind me about that question, and we can definitely see how to exactly approach that problem when we get to more randomizing stuff. All right, so we have completed part C here. Anything else on part C before I move into the next section? All right, because at this point, everyone, the studio is technically done. We have finished 9.10.3, so now we are on to the bonus mission. So again, it is definitely late for you all. Feel free to hop off. This is going to be recorded, but I'm going to be sticking through all the way to the end of the bonus mission, which we are going to be doing here in 9.10.4. So let's hop to it. 9.10.4 bonus mission, modify your code to check each meal for kale. Okay, if present, after the meal, output, add, don't worry, you have double chocolate tomorrow. LOL. All right.
Question. At what time will this video be uploaded?
All videos are typically uploaded by the next morning. So usually I've been doing 10:45, 10:30. I try to shoot for earlier, but that's basically the time I've been falling on right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. This is just hilarious. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and remove that right there, and we're going to go down here to we already did the school. We're going to go down here and do our bonus missions. So I'm going to include the bonus mission inside of the stuff that we just did for the user input. So what I'm going to do is that I need to check for the meal. Let's see. I actually got to modify your code to check each meal for kale if present. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and check each meal to see if there's any kale in it. In order to check the meal, where can we actually only check the meal at? Where is the only location really that we could do it in? You can tell me that.
36.
Right. I'll take 36 within the for loop. That's the only area we could truly do it in. Only within the confines of these curly brackets can we check meal. So that's what we got to do. So where I'm going to check it is below this console. I'm going to print out the meal first and then check to see if it has kale.
Okay.
So to do that, I need to loop through the entire meal to see if kale's actually in there. So loop through the entire meal. What am I going to be using?
If. No,
If is how we, very good. Remember, if is how we check or validate something or ask a question. For iterating over an array, we always want to use a for loop.
For loop.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So what I'm going to say is let. Now here's a conundrum. We're going to be building another for loop, but in this case, we already have I defined up here. So what are we going to put down here then?
J.
X.
Exactly. Who knows our alphabet? What comes after I? J does. So we're going to put let J equal 0. And then we just keep on going just like that. So J less than meal.length and J plus plus. Awesome. Now we're able to loop through it. Let's make sure we're actually able to loop through it. And so we're going to print out meal of J. Let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. I want to create just 2 meals. There we go. We create 2 meals, and look what it does. It prints out the meal, which we see that already here on this line. And then it prints out each line by line what's actually in the meal. So chicken, rice, peas, juice, and apple. So looks like we are working here, but we don't want to print it out. We need to check to make sure that horrid kale is not there, which, by the way, kale, I don't know how it became popular. Steamed is fine, but if it is cold, it is like razor blades in your mouth. I know people like it. I'm sorry, I can't. I just can't. I tried my hardest. All right, so we need to make sure that nothing has razor blades in it, AKA that kale. So what we need to do now is validate or check. So what tool are we going to use to do that?
Include if.
You can do if. Very good. I heard that other word there. I like where your head's at. Give me just a second, and you are absolutely correct. So if, and actually, sorry, now help me out. What do we need to put in this conditional? What are we going to be using in order to check to see if that horrid kale is in our meal? What can we do?
If meal of J, I mean like square brackets J.
Very good, yes.
Strict equals kale.
You could do that. We'll say double chocolate tomorrow. Let's see if this works. Oh, I gotta actually see where kale's at. Where's kale at? 1, 2, 3 down. So we gotta make at least 3 meals. Or sorry, I counted the wrong way there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. It is 3 still. All right, run. How many meals like to create? 3. Look at that. We create our 2 meals here that have no kale in it. Good for them. Then we come down here with tofu, corn, kale, and water, and more kale. Oh my gosh, more kale. Double chocolate tomorrow. So this is great. So we are actually printing out double chocolate tomorrow, which is fine. Where does it say? Oh, and there it is. There's more kale. Okay, I was like, more kale. And even more kale. And so we are printing out double chocolate. So we're checking to see if meal J is equal to kale. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that, one, we have technically completed that bonus mission. But I'm going to go into just a little bit more detail here. What if this kale right here was actually cookie? Yes, Kyle is truly having a sweet tooth right now. I really do just want a chocolate chip cookie. I don't know why. That's my craving right now. Anywho, kale has been turned over to cookie. So let's go and run this. We're going to type in 3 once again. Now take a close look at this. Did double chocolate tomorrow get printed out?
No.
Why not?
Because you were searching for that specific string of just kale.
Absolutely right. We were searching just for kale. It has to be exactly kale. So how can we modify maybe our conditional not to do that? Instead, search to see if kale is in the name. Even if something has the letters of kale in it, I don't want to eat it. How can we do that?
That includes.
That includes.
And Micah, don't forget, you are in one of my 5 right now of my screens. You can unmute at any time. All right. For kale, we're just going to do includes of kale. There we go. So now we're going to put a 3 there, and now we actually get the correct output. We get finally some double chocolate, even if we get more kale, because we're looking for includes. So if it even contains kale inside of it, that conditional will return true. So double chocolate tomorrow. So includes would be one way we could do that. Now, any questions on that? All right. Anything? Because that is technically it. Do you guys want to see one more small example how we can make this even more complex?
Just a second. I'm sorry. From the beginning of the I don't know where more kale came from.
More kale came from, unfortunately, our dessert aisle right here.
Okay. Okay.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was in desserts. I didn't even notice more kale until that sentence got printed out. But yeah, dessert. And then
because I thought the original instructions said that the meals had to everything you could only use an ingredient once, or you could only use a meal thing once. But.
You can, yet. So technically, more kale is the meal.
That's why
I was going back to what was it, part 1. So.
No, all good. Yeah. It tripped me up too whenever I saw it. I was like, okay, where's that coming from? But yeah, more kale is technically in the dessert aisle at that point. And I think just to poke a little bit of fun.
It's not even a dessert, but I don't know how it got included in the desserts. More kale.
Just launch code, just trying to be clever. Gotta love it. All right. So, did I hear one more question out there? Anyone else got a question? All right, let's make this one more step tricky. Up here we had pantry defined. So what I want to do is actually use that down here because I know that it got called out. So that's one thing. Again, this is just to make it tricky. We've already completed the studio, so we're all good there. This is just bonus points with Kyle. So instead of using like protein and right here, what we can do actually is that we can just make this meal without having to call each and every single one of these individual options. So let's go ahead and do that. I want to create my meal without even having to call protein whatsoever. So that's what we're going to do here. What I want to do is create my meal. And I want to use it using every single option we find in pantry. So for this, what I need to do is loop over pantry. To loop over pantry, what tool do I need to use?
For loop.
Because we're going to loop over an array, or we're going to do something with an array, iterate over it. Therefore, we need to use a for loop. So we say let, and then what is going to be our variable here to keep track of what index we're on?
0.
That's what we're going to set it to, but we need a variable name here.
I was going to say K, but we use J below it, so.
We can use K. We can use K.
Technically, we could, but I like that other thing. We always want to go in incremental order. We want to do I, J, K. K is only for tertiary nested for loops. This is not a tertiary one, it's a double. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We can use J because it's not within the one down here. Remember, by line 39, J will be forgotten about. So down here on line 40, you're A-okay to use J again. So J is perfect to use here. J less than pantry dot length. And then J++. There we go. So now it's time to build our meal. So what I'm going to say is, oh my gosh, it's like the 8th time this felt mail instead of meal. Meal, and what we're going to do is that we're going to push information into meal. And what I want to push is whatever's at pantry, at J, at index I.
You forgot the N in pantry.
Of course I did. I'm just keeping you guys on your toes. Keeping you on your toes. There we go. Now take a very close look at how we did that bracket notation. I did J first and then I. I did J first because I'm looping through pantry. This is the for loop that's looping through pantry. It's of J. So J goes first. That's the first index. I want to go at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. In order to do that, J is the one who's holding that true. But then when I'm in the actual protein or grain, when I finally get that out of there at whatever index J is, I need to go into there and pull out something out of the protein options. Well, the thing that's looping through all those options is 1 through 6. That's this for loop right here, whatever the user wants. This for loop's like index is counted by I. So that's the next one. I need to pull I out of there. So in that case now, I'm building meal right then and there without having to ever talk about proteins or grains. Now, is this the best thing to show you all at 9:30 at night? Oh, is it 10:30? No, it's 9:30 there. 9:30 at night? Probably not. So to everyone, I apologize for this, but this is a fun one right here. This is how we can utilize two-dimensional arrays within nested for loops and how we can do it appropriately. So before anything, let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to do 2 meals here. And look at that, we're still able to build our meals exactly how they were before without even mentioning proteins or grains. Why would we do this? Well, because instead of having to change everything down here, what if I just wanted to create a new one called now I want to make, so with your meal, not for human consumption, is a pet to eat it with. You have a dog, you have a cat, you have a bird, whatever, you have a horse maybe you want to eat food with,
Fish.
I don't know, you have a favorite horse, you have fish, you can't eat the fish because it's your friend, and then, I don't know, what's another pet?
Alien.
Hamster. I love it. You know what? We're going to change horse to alien. I like that. There you go. Perfect. Because you're in space, right? You need an alien friend. So now that I created this whole another option that we can choose from, instead of having to come down into our code as it was before and change all of our arrays around, all I got to do is add pet to pantry. Oh, technically this is not dynamic over here. And in joining it with what is that going to be? 5, right? Yeah. With a, oh yeah. I want to create 2 meals there. So just like that, we're able to, I mean, of course, you'll have to update your console log, whatever you want to see of the human see, but you never had to update your meal. You never had to reconfigure how your meals are formed by just using that 2-dimensional array. So it gave you some time and it made it more customizable, which is awesome. So now we see I'm about to enjoy some chicken with some rice, peas, juice, and an apple and enjoying it with a dog. Look at that. So simple to create such an awesome sentence by using this dynamic approach to two-dimensional arrays. Yeah, what's going on?
So if you had like, let's say another array nestled inside of those 2-dimensional, so multi-dimensional, would you then have like a J, an I, and then a K?
So if you're saying if I built another for loop inside of here, technically, yeah. So if you, I mean, if say instead of on the pantry, we'll say let my ship equal like the pantry, and then maybe if we wanted like a machine room or something with a bunch of stuff in there, technically my ship now, I just created a 3-dimensional array. You want to see what that looks like? So we say my ship. We run that. It looks horrid, but this is a 3-dimensional array. Welcome to it. It gets uglier and uglier. But yes, my ship, if we wanted to get that out of my ship or just build meals out of the parts of the ship for whatever reason, we would say then for let k equal 0, k less than my ship dot length. Oh gosh. And then k plus plus. And so in there, I think this will still technically work, yeah. So for this, we would do k j i. I'm gonna, yeah, okay, good, that makes a lot of sense. So let's go and make sure everything still works there. So it still comes up,
Oh, it gets weird.
No, oh, sorry, that's me. Oh, because I didn't update that. It shouldn't be pantry. What I just did is I grabbed the exact character inside of the pantry. I need to update pantry to my ship. There we go. And now it's back to normal. So that's how you can utilize a 3-dimensional array if you really are just wanting a bad Monday. So there we go. Great question. You want to just keep going? You want to do 4-dimensional arrays? Looks like eventually get to 7. There we go. We'll run out of alphabet eventually, but.
I asked because I just wanted to see if like the way that my brain is processing this is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
no, I'm all good with it. I love the crazy questions. Give it to me. Yeah.
That was a great question, Kansas. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll go as off the charts as you want in these reviews. I am A-okay with it at bonus mission time. Love it.
You want to go back to the random?
Oh God. That one actually will be in, I don't want to go into that just yet. So, okay. I mean, technically if you want to see it, I think I can do it from memory here. So, oh gosh. I'm trying to remember the mathematical. So it's like an equation you have to remember. You know what? Fine. We're going to do it. You ask for it, we're going to get it. Yeah. Math, random, JavaScript. It's like math for, no, we're not going to cheat. There you are. This guy.
Oh, the ceilings and the floors. I read into those. Yeah.
Yes. So this right here. So now if you want to just create a randomized meal, which God forbid, I don't know where I'm going to put that. Okay, I'll just here. There we go. Constant rand food, whatever. So our maximum would technically always be 6 because we have 6 options in there, and our minimum is going to be a 1 because that's how many food we have. I believe we can do that. Otherwise, we'll have to go to 0 to 5. But I think it's this. So rand food. Oh, it's already created the food down here. That's. Oh, that's a double check. Yeah, we need. Here we go. Oh no, where do we build the meal? Oh, we're building the meal right here. I was like, where are we going? Okay, so instead of I, technically, because this is just counting 0 to 6, very sequentially, very perfect, let's throw in the random food. And let's see what happens. We're either going to get an error here or, yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, that's not bad. 1. I think we're going to get an error, though. Yeah, we did. Undefined. Yes, that's my fault. Minimum is going to be 0. It's going to be 0, and then it's going to be 5. Let's forget that. There we go. So now we are just completely randomizing our foods. So I'm about to enjoy some beef with some corn and green. Actually, these are creating some dang good looking meals with a cat. So now we're actually being able to randomize. So this is technically your randomization expression, or yeah, just the line of code that you'd want to do that.
I'll write that down.
Go for it. It's also in the book. You'll meet each other once again. Don't worry. Okay, everyone. That is about as much oxygen as I have in my lungs. Yes, absolutely.
Well, if you want to hang out.
Yeah, do you have a question also?
Just a second. No, I've got a less than $10 hack for your closet door if you're interested.
All right. We'll talk. All right, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end this right now.